She was buried for 7 days, then came back to life. In the heart of Olukore village, where red dust trailed every footstep and the baobab trees whispered ancient secrets, lived a girl named Adesewa. She was quiet by nature, the kind of girl who walked through life unnoticed, until the day she was declared dead. The villagers found her collapsed under the iroko tree at the edge of the sacred forest, her skin cold, breath absent, and eyes wide open, staring at something invisible to all but her. The healer, an old man named Baba Olamide, examined her carefully. He pressed on her chest, poured blessed water into her mouth, and checked for any pulse. There was none. The oracle was consulted and confirmed it. Her spirit has fled. Her only family, an aunt too poor to afford any ceremony, agreed to a quiet burial at dusk. Wrapped in her mother's faded wrapper, Adesewa was placed in a shallow grave just beyond the village's edge. There was no weeping, only the soft murmur of prayers and the shuffle of feet on dry earth. No one questioned the speed of her burial. After all, in Olukoro, the dead were not to linger among the living. But what they buried that day was not a lifeless girl. It was a mystery the land had waited decades to unveil. 7 days after her burial, just as the morning mist began to lift from the village paths and the roosters greeted the rising sun, something unexplainable happened. A girl, barefoot and covered in dry, caked mud, walked slowly into Olukore. Her hair was matted, her eyes sunken but alert, and around her ankle was the same faded cloth she had been buried in. It was Adesewa. Gasps and shrieks filled the air as market women dropped their baskets and children ran behind huts in terror. Some cried witchcraft. Others whispered of spirits returned to punish the living. Her aunt fainted on sight. Only Baba Olamide approached her slowly, holding a palm frond in one hand and murmuring protective chants under his breath. "Child," he asked gently, "how are you walking?" Adesewa did not speak, but her eyes, now a deep, unsettling shade of crimson, held an answer older than any word. The chief was called, the elders gathered, and before nightfall, she was placed under watch in the old council hut while diviners consulted their spirits. But Adesewa just sat there, silent, unmoving, eyes staring through the mud, walls as though watching something the rest of them could not see. Baba Olamide could not sleep that night. He gathered his charms, his staff, carved from the sacred iroko tree, and returned to the place where Adesewa had been buried. The earth looked undisturbed, but he knew better. He began to dig with his hands, scooping away dry, hard soil until he reached a piece of cloth, the same cloth Adesewa had worn in the grave. It was twisted, as if she had struggled. Just beneath it, claw marks scraped into the wood that lined the grave. But most disturbing of all was what lay a few inches deeper. Bones. Human bones. Brittle and blackened. Long buried. He whispered a prayer and fled. At dawn, he called the elders and revealed his findings. That land, it turned out, was once the site of forbidden rituals. During the reign of Obadurojaye, decades earlier, those accused of conspiring against the throne were buried alive as a warning. It was a truth long hidden, a dark stain buried under layers of time and silence. The spirits of those wronged had waited patiently for justice, and now, through Adesewa, they had returned to be remembered. The girl's survival, or resurrection, was no miracle. It was an echo of unfinished business, a spiritual awakening forced into flesh. The Oracle Priestess, Abeni, arrived from the highlands the next day. Known for her visions and feared for her curses, she walked into the village barefoot, her white robes trailing behind her like smoke. She demanded to see the girl. In the council hut, Adesewa sat in silence, her crimson eyes locked on Abeni's the moment she entered. The priestess knelt before her and touched the girl's forehead. Instantly, the fire in the hearth roared to life. Abeni gasped. She carries more than memory. She carries the wrath of the silenced. The elders listened as Abeni recounted a vision. The spirits of the unjustly buried, crying out from beneath the soil. Through Adesewa, they now sought justice, not in blood, but in truth. Abeni instructed the villagers to unearth the forgotten graves, to honor the wronged, and to cleanse the land with rituals of atonement. But Chief Olakunle, the grandson of the old king, resisted. What's buried should remain so, he warned. That night, his house was struck by lightning. Rain fell for hours, but only on his compound. His livestock died without explanation. And the next morning, his eldest son was found outside the sacred well, his lips sealed shut, his eyes turned to ash. Fear took root. The villager had no choice but to obey. Adesewa was no longer seen as cursed. She was the bridge, the chosen mouth of the buried past. As the villagers performed the rites, unearthed the buried bones, and sang the names of the forgotten, Adesewa began to speak, not with her voice, but with dreams. At night, she would walk to the riverbank and chant in languages no one remembered, but all recognized in their bones. The ancestors were speaking through her. She led the final ceremony, standing atop the hill where the executions had once taken place. Her voice, soft yet commanding, carried the weight of centuries. Let the truth be known. Let the dead be remembered. Let peace return to this soil. The ground beneath her vibrated, a final breath from the earth itself. Then her eyes faded back to brown. Her voice returned to normal, and she smiled. For the first time in her life, she remained in Olukore, living humbly, teaching the children about the old ways and the power of truth. She never left again. But those who came to the village, travelers, seekers, would always hear the story, not of a girl who returned from the dead, but of a land that forced its truth into the open through the only soul brave enough to carry it. Adesewa became a symbol, not just of resurrection, but of memory. In Africa, they say the dead never truly die. They live in stories, in whispers of the wind. And through Adesewa, the land of Olukor would never forget again.